let me introduce our second speaker for today, Salvatore Carannante from the University of Pisa, who is going to talk to us about the common mother of every generated thing, Leone Ebreo's doctrine of prime matter. Over to you, Salvatore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Many thanks to Nicola for this precious opportunity, and more in general for the organization of this amazing series of seminars. With 28 editions in less than a century, the Dialoghi d'amore of Juda Bravanel, better known as Leone Ebreo, can be considered a real bestseller of 16th century philosophy, and represents a turning point between the Florentine Platonism of authors like Marsilio Ficino and Pico della Mirandola, and Renaissance naturalism of authors like Giordano Bruno and Tommaso Campanella. In this work, written in Italian and posthumously published by Mariano Lenzi in 1555, Leone tries to integrate different philosophical and theological traditions. This work consists of 3 dialogues, carried on by 2 main characters, Philo and Sophia. And the main topic of these conversations between these 2 characters is love. Love seen as a dynamic and vital force present at every level of reality. Focusing on some passages of the second and the third dialogue, my paper aims at exploring one of the most intriguing and groundbreaking aspects of Leone's speculation, the doctrine of prime matter, the materia prima, or also materia generale. He uses these expressions in Italian, described as the common mother of every generated thing, in constant interaction with the divine form depicted as a father. And in order to introduce this complex doctrine, it can be useful to make reference to this passage. Here, Filone is explaining how love, seen as an universal vital force, I quote, is found in the elements and bodies with no sentient soul, and more specifically, in which way generative love is present in the elements and in the matter of lower things, in a more abundant way than in all others. Insofar the 4 elements, the 4 Empedoclean elements, are generated, we must assume that there is something other than them. And I quote the passage in bold. We need to assign a common matter to all the elements, a matter that allows their changes. It takes on the form of air, then the form of water, and so on for the others as well. The philosophers call it prime matter, and the more ancient call it chaos, which in Greek means confusion, because all things potentially and originally and are together in confusion, and everything is made from it, each of itself separately and successively. So, prime matter is described, first of all, as chaos, insofar all things, and we will see, all generated things are somehow confused in it. But the main features of this prime matter become more clear shortly after, when Leone describes the kind of love that we can find in this prime matter. And at this point, he introduces a very important and also very common in the philosophical tradition metaphor of matter as a human. This connection between matter and human that we will see Leone reshapes in a very original way. According to Plato, here the reference is to Timaeus 50d, matter longs and loves all the forms of generated things, as women do towards men. And shorter in the end of this passage, and since it is the cause of the constant generation of those shapes that it lacks, it is the cause of the constant corruption of the forms it possesses. So he starts from this traditional metaphor of matter, between matter and female, in order to show that matter is an entity which lacks of something. But we will see that in the following pages, Leone completely reshapes this association between these two terms in order to outline the generative power of matter, in order to describe matter as characterized by a great generative force. Here you can see also a negative radicalization of this association between matter and female. Because of this, some call it a harlot, because of the variety and inconstancy of its loves. Thus, the generative love of this first matter, its continual desire for a new husband, and the enjoyment that it receives from a new copulation are the cause of the generation of all things that can be generated. Here, this reference to the matter as a harlot is to Maimonides. In the Guide of the Perplexed, Maimonides describes the matter as a faithless wife. For matter is never found without form, and is therefore always like such a wife who is never without a husband, never single. In his reelaboration of this metaphor, Leone puts a distance from Maimonides, and in his view, in his general view of prime matter, the association between matter and female takes a positive, laudatory meaning. You can see here how the similitude between matter and woman is reshaped in laudatory terms, insofar matter is represented not anymore as an harlot or an unfaithful wife, but like a mother. The generation of the lower bodies comes from heavens from a true father, as well as a matter is the first mother for their generation. Afterward, there are the four elements of which the art is the greatest, and is the most manifestly mother. And you know that fathers love their generation as the mother do. Indeed, they have a more excellent and perfect love. And this idea of the matter as mother is restated shortly after, with the reference to the generative processes of the lower bodies. You can see also here the part in bold. I will tell you in a general way that heaven, as father of all things that are subject to generation, moves with a continual circular motion over the whole sphere of prime matter, and moving and mingling all its parts, matter brings forth all the types, species and individuals of the lower world of generation. So, on the one hand, we have the heaven, the circular motions of heaven depicted as the father, and on the other, we have the prime matter described as a mother. These two parts are equally necessary for the generation of the lower things, of the entities, of the creatures of the lower world. But we will see towards the end of my paper that in Leone's view, the comparticipation of father and mother, of God and prime matter, is necessary not only for the bodies of the lower world, but also for the heavens. But we will see this shortly towards the end of the paper. This kind of rehabilitation of matter is directed firstly towards the doctrine that Leone Ebreo attributed to the peripatetics. In fact, he says that generally peripatetic philosophers have seen the matter as propenile, as something that is that is very near to the nothing, to something that lacks of forms, it lacks of every determination. Well, in Leone's view, this idea of absence of form is completely reshaped in a new direction. In fact, Leone says that insofar matter has no forms, can take every form. This is the key point of Leone's position. As I have said, the form on one hand represented as father, and on the other the matter as mother, are equally necessary for the generation of creatures. In this passage, stated that not all generation is carnal generation or a wanton act. This sort of generation, in fact, occurs only in human beings and animals. Leone specifies that generation is indeed common to all the things of the world, from the first God to the last thing of the world. Only God is the only reality that generates but is not generated. Most generated things have two principles of generation, one formal and the other material, or rather one giving and the other receiving. Thus, the poets call the formal principle the giving father and the material principle the receptive mother. And because these two principles cooperate in the process of generation of whatever is generated, it was necessary that they should love each other and unite in love to produce offspring, as the fathers and the mothers of human beings and animals do. This idea that material principle and formal principle are cooperate in the process of generation as a crucial metaphysical consequences. In fact, prime matter cannot be seen as a created entity like the others. Its relation with God cannot be interpreted in creatural terms. The prime matter is not a creature like the other created beings. And this aspect becomes clear here, where Leone makes reference to the myth of Demogorgon. Demogorgon is the representation of the first and the supreme God, and here Leone is interpreting a myth, a story that he found in the Genealogia Deorum Gentilium of Boccaccio. Boccaccio is one of the key sources of Leone. There is a great and a very massive use of mythology in the Dialoghi d'Amore. Well, in this passage, Leone makes reference to Boccaccio and to Ovid in order to show that chaos, who is the common mother, mixed and indeterminate of all things, is something co-eternal with God. Matter so is, even if matter was not something on the same level of God, is co-eternal to God. In this, some lines after, Leone tries to correct in part this view of the co-eternal nature of God and matter. And he says that matter is not co-eternal. Properly speaking, matter is not co-eternal with God, but is produced by God ab eterno. You can see here the passage in bold. God produced all the other things from chaos at the beginning of time, according to the Platonic theory. And they call it companion, despite the fact that it was created, because this chaos was produced ab eterno and always with God. In this sense, matter is not created by God, but is produced ab eterno by God. because all the other created creatures, all the other created realities are produced by God, starting from this prime matter. This prime matter, this is another very important consequence of Leone's doctrine of prime matter. This prime matter, this first matter, is common to the lower and to the heavenly things. There is the same matter, the same matter that we can find in the creatures of the sublunar world, but also in the heavens. This is one of the most important points of Leone's theory. The idea that there is an homogeneous matter at all levels of reality. He also says in this passage, it is an idea traced back to Anaxagoras. He says that the celestial and the elemental world were brought into being together by intellect as father and matter as mother. In the third dialogue of the work, the deep implications of Leone's doctrine of prime matter become even more clear. In particular, Leone seems to agree with the idea attributed to Plato, and Leone found this idea once again in the Timaeus, that even if the world was made anew by God, we cannot assume it to be made from nothing, but of the material and ancient and eternal chaos. And to outline this doctrine, Leone makes reference to a metaphysical principle that probably found in Plotinus' Aeneid, more specifically in the fourth treatise of Second Aeneid. The idea that it is necessary for the formless to precede the formed. Everything that has a form must be preceded by something which has no form at all. And once again, Leone says that chaos can never have been new, but has existed from eternity. We have seen that idea of the productio ab aeterno of the prime matter. The formed world is made anew, but the formless chaos from eternity is created by God. The idea that the formless must precede the formed is used by Leone to underline more clearly the fact that matter there is one matter common to the celestial bodies, and at the same time to the terrestrial bodies. He says here in this passage in bold, hence heaven, the sun, and the stars, which are beautiful formed, are made of formless matter like all lower bodies. The matter of the heavens, says Leone, is none other than the prime matter, formless in every way, because there is no means of multiplying and varying it. It must be identical in all its composited. And to Plato, it seems right that all the world, just as it has a common father with God, should also have a mother common to all its parts, which is chaos, and the world is the child of them both. According to Plato, and Leone agrees with this doctrine, heavens are made of the same matter of which we are made. In this passage, at the same time, Leone seems to say that that the angels would have incorporeal and intellectual matter, but in other passages of the dialogue, He seems to suggest that somehow this prime matter is also the origin of the matter that we can find in the intelligences and also in angels. Finally, he keeps this question open, but he makes reference to the fonts vitae of Ibn Gabirol, or Ibn Gabirol. He calls Ibn Gabirol Al-Ben-Zubron, with this strange form of the name, in order to suggest that probably matter, the prime matter, is not only the matter of the creatures in the sublunar world, is not only the matter of the celestial bodies, but is also the matter of the intelligences and of the angels. But finally, Leone gives no final answer to this question. Anyway, Leone is very clear about the fact that the heavens are destructible and dissoluble. I believe that Plato did not imply that the heavens are eternally dissoluble, but rather meant to show why they are not continually subject to generation and corruption and of short duration like the lower beings, though they are all made of the same matter, which makes them temporal and dissoluble. In fact, he says that although on account of their material nature they should be dissoluble, by reason of their great beauty of form, drawn in large measure from God, their life is very long. Here he is making reference to the passage of Timaeus, where the demiurge says to the heavens that even if they are destructible, they will not be destroyed in time. So finally, I have tried to show you how Leone finally describes prime matter as a substrate common not only to every generated thing, to the things of the sublunar world, but also to the heavens and perhaps also to the intelligences and to the angels. Many thank you very much for your attention.